How an athlete tragically died while swimming despite lifeguards. On the 8th of August 2024 in the morning, CrossFit Games history faced an unforgettable tragedy. World-class CrossFit athlete Lazar Đukić drowned during the first event of the 2024 CrossFit Games, an 800-meter swim at Marine Creek. It wasn't a death, but a question mark on the CrossFit organization. That's the reason the aftermath is never ending. From community response to family members' heartbreak and the general audience, every reaction raises doubts. And today's video is an effort to answer the questions. What happened to 28-year-old Lazar Đukić while fighting for the title of fittest man on Earth? Was his death a cardiac arrest or something else? Why wasn't he saved? Why did the CrossFit community agree to continue the games? Who will be held accountable for the loss? Let's find out. Before getting into what happened to Lazar Đukić during CrossFit Games 2024, let's first know the ever-smiling guy. The force of nature, Serbia-born Lazar Đukić, grew up in a tight-knit family that always encouraged him to follow his dreams. From a young age, Lazar showed an incredible passion for fitness. He spent most of his time in his makeshift gym-turned-living room while aspiring for greatness. His love for fitness found the perfect match when he discovered CrossFit in his teens. It might sound ironic that Lazar himself had been working as a lifeguard in his early days. It was the time when his roommate introduced him to CrossFit through the hero workout Murph, which included a 1-mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and another 1-mile run. This experience ignited his passion for the sport, prompting him to return to Serbia and pursue CrossFit seriously, even though there were no local gyms then. Lazar embraced the requisite training through his matchless dedication so that you could see, if there was a gym in heaven, Lazar would find a way to be the first one there. That was the reason the CrossFit community embraced the young talent with open arms. Can you guess Lazar's actual charm? His smile. Looking at him, you couldn't see any sign of hard training on his face. He would welcome everyone with his iconic smile, which became a reason why many strangers grieved over his death, recalling him as a smiling guy. Combined with his winning smile and unshakable determination, Lazar laid the foundation for warm relationships with everyone, from family dinner tables to CrossFit gyms. Apart from emerging as a successful athlete, Lazar had a personal goal of lifting up others by showing them, with hard work, anything is possible. Officially, Lazar made his debut at the CrossFit Games in 2021, finishing an impressive 9th overall. From then on, success followed, and Lazar improved his standing. He was placed 8th in 2022 and again 9th in 2023. The young guy was getting closer to becoming the fittest man on Earth with every passing year. But he wasn't destined to see it happening in the 2024 CrossFit Games, and 8th August became the most tragic day of his life. On that fateful day, Lazar Đukić was competing along with his brother Luka. After completing the 3.5-mile run in the hot morning in Texas, he jumped into Marine Creek Lake in Fort Worth, Texas for an 800-meter swim with his last smile. Once a lifeguard, Lazar little did know that he would be overlooked by the Coast Guards. As he started the open water swim at 100 degrees Fahrenheit air temperature that day, the heat proved too oppressive for even the most conditioned athlete. The water was extremely hot for an athletic body that had just finished a race. Rushing to the next competition proved fatal for him. Just 50 meters from the finish line, Lazar lost his strength. He began to struggle to stay afloat. The footage of the 45-second struggle ended when he drowned to never appear alive again. What was more tragic? Call it a stroke of luck or pure negligence, lifeguards, who were positioned only 10 meters away, didn't act promptly, as if they weren't trained for safety, but to watch the game like an audience. But how about the audience? Among hundreds of spectators, did anyone notice Lazar's plight? No, but humanity was there.
In the water, and I saw it. I saw him start to kind of scramble. He started to doing small turns, and he was trying to get his head out of the water. And it was at that time that we started screaming to the lifeguard, like, he needs help. And then within seconds, he was under and he never came back up.
An eyewitness reported that he saw the athlete trying to get his head out of the water. He also yelled at the lifeguard for assisting the man fighting for his life in the water. Another spectator jumped to save him, but the lifeguard argued and asked him to go back. Following the spectator's report, they merely paddled around the spot and went back. That was a show of utter incompetence. So, what happened left Lazar's family in tears and many questions behind. It wasn't until the last athlete exited the water that the reality of the situation began to sink in. Could you believe that 3 hours passed before Lazar's underwater disappearance when recovery efforts were finally commenced? In the sweltering heat and water, time was critical. By then, it was tragically too late. The authorities made every effort to recover Lazar's body. Had they spent a few moments to save an alive man, Lazar, instead of spending hours to find his dead body, call it a failure to respond to his distress signals or a critical flaw in the safety measures. This single gruesome event is eye-opening. The aftermath followed. So here are the findings. Let's start by considering the most apparent cause, the lifeguards. Lifeguards' availability at any sports event that involves water bodies means ensuring safety. These lifeguards are highly professional, well-trained, and well-equipped to cope with any mishap by acting promptly. However, Lazar's tragic death analysis clearly shows these lifeguards lacked the necessary expertise. While stationed only 10 meters away, they didn't apprehend the situation, nor did they respond to the save him calls. Let's stop here and let me ask you to look around yourself and do some rough math. How far is a 10-meter measure for you? So, undoubtedly their presence was even less than mere spectators. Were they there to enjoy the competition? Were they simply waiting for the results like a general audience does, although the audience was even way more vigilant than them? Most unfortunately, Lazar was only 50 meters away from the finish line when he was exhausted, while the area was already under high supervision. In such cases, lifeguards' inaction raised serious questions as well. Who appointed these lifeguards? Who assessed their competence? Well, until these questions are answered by the authorities, although we don't know when, the comment section is open. Let us know what you think regarding the lifeguards' responsibility towards the event. Now, let's move forward to the most gross part, the role of organizers and authorities. No, we aren't going to talk about their response. Instead, it's something serious and science-backed. Triathlon is a similar endurance game involving running, swimming, and biking. But these competitions have science-backed reasons for putting swimming first. When swimming, if you're tired, your body runs out of oxygen, which it needs to supply to your legs to accelerate the kicks to stay floating and moving forward. It's simple. If you run and you get tired, you can stop. But if you swim and you get tired, you die. So, it's the extreme fatigue that hits and death surprises. But with CrossFit Games, planning a swimming competition fast following a 3.5-mile run on a hot day makes no sense. You have no choice except to think, were CrossFit authorities so oblivious to the athlete's safety? Next up, on a hot day, when the air temperature hits 100 degrees Celsius, which is obviously common for Texas summer, running could have already been challenging. Then, swimming in extremely hot water, yes, for anyone coming running 3.5 miles under the sun, when body energy is drained and dehydration is knocking, jumping in 87 degree Fahrenheit water is almost intolerably hot. If you look at the USA open swimming regulations, 60.8 degrees Celsius to 85 degrees Celsius temperature range is considered safe for open swimming temperatures. But where is the danger? The US Masters Swimming's rulebook dictates that pools used for competition should be between 77 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit. So, it's clear that on the tragic day when Lazar failed to swim, the lake's water temperature was way hotter, totally unsuitable for athletes coming from a race. It most probably caused Lazar to experience severe cramps or exhaustion that led him to drowning. The 28-year-old man kept fighting for his life for 45 seconds, chillingly unnoticed. Initially, it was suspected that Lazar had some cardiac arrest, but the doctor confirmed he was all fine and had no heart issues. So, considering the temperature and poorly planned sports event as a reason, hadn't it been for Lazar, there could be anyone's brother or sister, father or mother, son or daughter, who would die competing in a game that believes in push yourself so hard that you're peaking. That's not a joke. CrossFit athletes come from diverse backgrounds and regions. Mostly, the weather conditions they train in are also different from those in Texas. So, neglecting the temperature challenge and science involved in players' safety seems like a big crime. Lastly, let's discuss the gap between the distressing moment and response time. Such a serious mistake can be expected in two scenarios. First, you never thought such mishaps could happen. A world-class game involving over 36 athletes arranged on a world level has such poor planning that it failed to do proper process hazard analysis. Process hazard analysis, also known as PHA, is crucial in designing or reforming a facility or process to ensure the safety of users. CrossFit is deeply saddened by the death of one of our athletes in the swim portion of our event this morning. We are collaborating. We are working very closely with the authorities with the follow-up investigation. Second, the communication gap and confusion lead to Lazar's brother Luca's momentary relief before realizing he was still missing, leading to a delay to find Lazar's body. According to Luca, "I quickly ran to see where Dave Castor is, found him leaning at the fence close to the lake, and I asked, 'What is going on? Do you know where my brother is?' Dave said, 'He was number 27, right?' They said his chip crossed the finish line." It sounds simple. But again, it's a big question mark on the accuracy of the information that even organizers had. There were only 40 athletes, not 400. Who spread the news that Lazar's chip had crossed the finish line without any verification? But remember, this last reason is only trivial. You can never overlook the part lifeguards should play and the temperature factors the authorities should consider before planning the games. These are the reasons everyone from inside and outside CrossFit received Lazar's tragedy with shock and empathy, except the authorities. Look at what they said. "We are devastated by the passing of Lazar Đukić. Our hearts are with Lazar's friends and fellow athletes." Then the CrossFit Games posted on their Twitter, "The first instinct is to shut down, to isolate, to mourn. But the only cure for grief is to grieve. And the best way to grieve is together." In this spirit, we have decided to move forward with the 2024 CrossFit Games. So, at the CrossFit Games podium, a tribute was paid to Lazar Đukić to continue the games. Stop at this point and look into your heart and how you feel for Lazar at this moment. Yes, you feel grieved and also sense the sort of heartlessness on the part of the games. What happened next was natural. People also felt for Lazar like you do. The CrossFit athletes' social media accounts were flooded with messages and posts speaking their hearts on Lazar's heartbreaking loss. Many athletes also quit the game. They couldn't simply tolerate the loss. Better to say, they saw themselves in the place of Lazar. Athletes like Baston Fritz shared a touching message. "May your brave spirit and passion for the sport live on forever in our hearts." His words reflected the broader sentiment. Lazar was more than just an athlete. He was a beacon of positivity and joy. Brooke Wells, another female athlete, expressed her grief, saying, "It's been really weird stepping out of the competition. I just feel emotionally drained." In times of tragedy, the CrossFit fans were so heartbroken that they couldn't help empathizing with Lazar. But despite facing a big loss, they critically analyzed the situation and condemned whosoever was responsible, from lifeguards to authorities and the game itself. For example, one Reddit user went saying, "What happened was nothing but incompetence. CrossFit's athletes are being pushed to their limit, and the organizers have safety observers on paddleboards dozens of yards away from their closest competitor. Not to mention, the ratio of safety observers to swimmers was ridiculously outmatched for the severity of the task at hand. It is disgusting that the organizers of a sport that has had such a positive impact on the military and the general public allowed one of their best to die of incompetence and arrogance." Likewise, another CrossFit fan exploded, saying, "This isn't a 9/11 level conspiracy. This is rather plain. People were screaming at lifeguards to save a man they could see was drowning. They were, in whatever way, for whatever reason, incompetent. They literally didn't even see him. For minutes. It didn't end here." More precisely, Kyle Sockwell, founder of Sockwell Swimming Club, condemned the idea of making non-professional swimmers compete for open swimming on X, saying, "Stop making non-professional swimmers do open water swimming. It's dangerous for professionals and exponentially more dangerous for non-professionals. Swim in a pool or don't swim at all." That was all about the distress of fans and fellows, but nothing could compare to the family's pain. Luka Đukić, Lazar's younger brother, was himself competing in the CrossFit Games besides Lazar, but the brother's death shattered the 25-year-old Luka completely. Initially, he wasn't in a position to talk to the media. His reaction was totally human, especially when he shared a strong bond with his brother. Both had been training, laughing, and prepping together, but when he gathered his senses, his reaction made all sense for others too. Luka opened a GoFund campaign to fight for Lazar. On his Instagram account, he left a detailed public message revealing how brutally and shallowly the authorities responded to the tragic event by simply asking Luka if they wanted to continue the games as a tribute to his brother. At that time, Luka said, "I don't think I'm thinking clearly, so this decision should not be up to me." The CrossFit Games creator Dave Castro replied, "It's not up to you anyways." But later, the decision was presented as the wish of the family. Not only this, Luka himself confirmed that later he saw the video and found no one attempting to save Lazar. Luka's post wasn't just about grief or his frustration, it was loaded with the truth about the tragedy and after events. That's the reason he demanded justice. Could you imagine how cold it was that initially the CrossFit authorities only grieved Lazar's death without emphasizing the safety needs? But later on, they realized the CrossFit community pressure and a possible lawsuit, so they declared they'd investigate the issue and ensure safety measures, saying, "Put the facts aside."
CrossFit is deeply saddened by the death of one of our athletes during the swim portion of our event this morning.
Let us know in the comment section below, do you think CrossFit authorities reacted reasonably? This is of the questions left by CrossFit authorities' response to the tragic death of Lazar Đukić. But renowned sports figures responded more seriously. For example, sports commentator Tommy Marquez looks at the tragedy as forthcoming of similar tragedies if nothing is done.
I think at this point, it's like one of the biggest things you have to, in times of crisis, is not letting a singular mistake snowball into multiple mistakes. And regardless of what your intent is, multiple mistakes were made, and after the initial big one, someone died.
Even if it seems like blaming one person, we can hold the organization responsible for this event. After all, the hierarchy of organization means ensuring the safety of everyone participating in the game or watching in-house. By then, even after admitting they'll ensure future safety, CrossFit officials' response appears more focused on damage control than genuine accountability. Overall, CrossFit's failure to offer concrete answers, combined with the delayed and seemingly detached response, only adds to the growing outrage, and Luka's possible lawsuit remains fully justified. Not only this, but you can also see how the community would stand by Lazar's side, even without considering the overwhelming evidence by simply going logically. It's clear that the heart-wrenching incident of Lazar's death has left us with huge questions regarding event organization and athlete safety protocols. It's time athletes are rethinking whether they would endanger their lives to gain the title for which the organizers care a little. The multi-trillion organizations are more after money and retaining their sponsors. It's the call for change. Now, it's crucial for governing bodies to assess their practices and prioritize athlete well-being above all else. So, CrossFit fans, it was the devastating story of Lazar Đukić, who was competing in a game that could earn him the fittest man on earth, but ended up surprising him with a helpless death. Let us know what you think about the story of Lazar's death at CrossFit Games. The comment section is open. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with like-minded people. Remember to put your safety first, even if you're chasing your most ambitious goals. Subscribe to us for more lessons from CrossFit Games.